Today, we got some mods to do to this thing. We got some shootouts to do. All right, I got some tall bars on it you can see here, but that's really the only change so far. We've got the Honda there. Doc's gonna ride it. I'm gonna ride this. We'll swap out and do it again. I rode this over here to our testing grounds, and it's a 94%, and that thing's probably at 94% fuel too. So sure. So we want to make this plant even. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna see how this thing comes off the line next to this thing. On the way over here, it's obviously, we notice it's gonna be just a complete murder by the time we get to the end of our little drag strip we have here. So, but let's see how it is off the line first and go from there.
3, 2, 1, go!
All right, as you can see, I was surprised at just how close they were off the line. What did you think? Were you expecting it to at least keep up at all?
I know it has a lot of just instant get up and go, but I didn't expect that much out of it. That thing's definitely, like, in quotations, easier to ride because I'm off the line and almost immediately shifting gears, and it's just pulling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
I think once you got to right off second gear, middle of second gear, you just started pulling.
I just pull away, yeah.
And this fell on its face. So we'll definitely look into like a controller upgrade. It's going to need that, I think. The battery power needs more battery life, but I was surprised. What about you?
Yeah, it seemed solid.
All right, let's get out of the way because there's a car coming.
Yeah.
I have got to do something about this rider triangle. I've put the taller bars on, and it made a world of difference. The problem now is these pegs are so far forward for an adult rider, it's borderline uncomfortable. It does keep your toes on the pegs to be able to get your weight back, but what I'm going to do is we're going to see if we can pull this apart, see what it's going to take to build a bracket to move these pegs back. Maybe down some more, but definitely back. We can get a little bit of drop. I do want to keep a kickstand on here, so I'm going to have to figure out a way to shorten this kickstand, make sure it doesn't hit the swing arm when it's up, but as of right now, let's get these foot pegs off and see exactly what it's going to take to move them back after a few measurements. So here's my plan to move them back and down, which is going to move them about 2 inches back. I believe that's going to make a huge difference on this rider triangle if we can get them back and down like that. So what we're going to have to do that is we're going to have to build a bracket that's going to come off of this. I'm probably going to make it go on the outside, which is fine. We can put some nuts on the backside. First thing we got to do is let's see what it's going to take to just get this where we want it with something cheap and something easy to, as a, like a template. We'll go with that. All right, after some more measuring, what we're going to wind up doing is moving these things back right at 2 inches back. It's going to get our rider triangle opened up some more. It's not going to push it too far back. And then it's going to wind up being right at an inch lower. Still have good ground clearance. Still going to have good lean angle. But it's going to open this up for a bigger rider. Now, I've come up with a plan. I'm going to build brackets from here to here, which are going to push this farther out. What we'll wind up doing is we'll build a bracket. I may just CNC cardboard aided design and then get the plasma cutter, cut it out, and go from there. So we're going to build a bracket for these two and then brackets there. So that's our next obstacle is design those up and we'll see what we got. All right, we're going to start our template here. One thing I like to do, I take a little grease around that right there, and then I take my cardboard template, push it on there, and as you see, it transposes around the holes. That gives you a great place to start, so we know our starting point and where it's going to be. And as I build this template, I'm going to cut away as little as possible. And the reason why I would do that is I want this to be as big as possible as I'm putting it in there so I don't have to start over. And then once it's all done, once it's all designed, then I can trim off all the excess and make it look nice. Okay, the mount is made. Here's how I made the mount. I took this cardboard piece right here, drew it up. I built it all out of cardboard. Obviously, you saw I had stuff holding it up there, so made that, cut it out of metal. And as you can see, it has a nice smooth cutout. I did that using a bandsaw, welded them, cut one out, welded it to the other one, drilled the hole so the holes matched, and then used the bandsaw to cut out the other one so they match exactly. Clamped them together with vice grips, ground them down smooth. They match perfectly. So that worked out really well. Didn't have short enough bolts, but I do have some shorter ones. And I didn't think about it when I went to the store to grab these grade 10.9s. One mistake, I don't know if it was a mistake, but an oversight. I shortened the kickstand right here. I like kickstand on the pit bikes. I think I shortened it too much. I don't know if it's because it changed the angle, you know, moving it back and down, but I shortened it too much. So what I've done, I'm going to weld on a little foot here underneath it. Not only is it going to give us a better place to set down like other bikes, it's a little bit wider foot peg so when it's in the dirt, but I also concave the inside out right there to try to make this as light as possible. As you can see, this is a thick piece of little steel here. So we'll get that welded on there, but these foot pegs turned out amazing. They did. So let's get this finished up, and then we'll give final thoughts on this bike for this video, because I've got more plans for more things. So this won't be final for this bike, but it will be the final for this video. But I've got a couple things to show you that I thought were kind of interesting. One of the greatest things about welding is just how good you can make a weld look with a grinder and a little bit of paint. So obviously I'm trying to make sure that I don't add too much weight to this. I did cut off a little bit, so that's going to make a difference there, but I just welded the front. I also took a file after grinding it down. This part is going to stick out here, so we don't want to catch our leg or anything on it. So if you do add like a foot pedal to your kickstand so it doesn't sink into the dirt as bad, make sure you grind it down, don't have any sharp points. Another issue, I went to take this loose, and the bolt that goes into it has a little spacer. That little spacer goes in there, and then this tightens up against it. And 3 times I've had to tighten this bolt right here up on the kickstand. Kickstands are important to me, so I want to make sure it stays on there. I took one of the other bolts. This is a grade 8.8, grade 5, that used to be in here. It's a little longer. I'm going to put it in there, and then I've got a nut that I'm going to put on the backside to lock it in, make sure I don't lose what's important to me, which is a kickstand, as I take a break. So let's get this put back on and move on to my next thing I need to talk about. As I stated before, I removed the brake cutout on the throttle side. And for a while, I was using the left side, and it's nice to have that side as a cutout if you have somebody you're teaching. So what I did is I added a switch right here that when it's up, the brake cutouts work, and when it's down, brake cutouts don't work. I just jumped in between the ground side of the brake cutouts, and then this disconnects it. No brake cutout. I've gotten to where I don't even ride with it anymore. So the brake cutouts for an adult pit bike rider, they should go away. That's something I would consider somewhat important. The throttle response and speed settings are, I just leave them turned all the way up now that I'm riding it all the time. I did a long moto yesterday. I run it from 89, 90% down to 15%. And it took a while to get there. I was pretty tired afterwards. It was an amazing ride because this bike is so much fun. And I was just listening to an audiobook actually while I was in just motoing down on this thing. It's a lot of fun. It is not, and I repeat, it is not a replacement for the KLXs, for the 110s. It's something different. I don't even know how to say it. I think this will get there. I'm got some things in the work. Maybe upgrade the motor controller, electric co, something like that. Makes one of those for makes it upgraded. So I'd like to see what that does. Obviously, the battery would be nice for it to last a little bit longer. All in all, I'm really happy with the bike. I think I've said this before, but it is what it is. It's a inexpensive little bike that has its flaws, and I, I love it. I absolutely do. I do not regret my purchase. If you have a backyard track, especially in the city, and you want to be able to rip around, this thing's amazing. If you have kids that you want to teach to ride dirt bikes, because it comes with the lower bars, because it has such a small rider triangle, absolutely, this would be something I would recommend. So what do we have next coming? I don't know, but I do know it's going to be fun, and I hope you join me.